All right, for the last time this weekend, we are back at Nerd Rage Gaming, Indianapolis this weekend. Joe Lissette, Mason Clark here to bring you home. We've got the finals of the Modern Team Trios event. Players are looking at deck lists, ready to sit down, or they're already sitting down for the finals. And we're going to start with match A, which I believe is Theo Jung versus Oliver Tomajko. Mason, tell us about what they're playing and who do you think might be favored?
Oliver Tomajko is playing his trusty Team vs. Rhinos deck that we saw him play earlier in the tournament, did very well with, and is a big fan of. Theo is playing the Being Control deck. We haven't got to see much of Theo. Theo's been playing Being Control Mirror, so we've been trying to let that play out, but Theo has been crushing those matchups. So we're going to watch those two players. We'll start off our finals match here. And I think Theo's a little bit favored if he can make it to the mid game. Rhinos can put a bunch of pressure down early and use things like Force Negation to stop the interaction. But Theo is able to overpower those things if he gets the time. Things like Omnath run over the opponent, and just in general, Beanstalk plus Furies and Solitudes, you can sort of fight away at those Rhinos, and they don't have the material to keep up with you. So I think Theo's favored if we make it to the mid game, but we just have to make it to that mid game first.
Right, and that's kind of the thing for every deck. A lot of decks facing down the Rhinos decks is just you have to survive the initial onslaught, and then if you can, well, they don't have. I mean, they can make more Rhinos, but they can't do anything. They don't have another trick. So unless you're playing One Ring and they bash you with Questing Beast, as I've experienced a few times this summer. But thank you for being with us and getting through the weights. We have just the finals left. If you're enjoying the coverage, remember to follow. Tune in next month, Thanksgiving weekend. If you have some free time away from family, if you want to come out to the event in Wisconsin, it's in Madison, I believe. Mm-hmm. There you go. And if you can't make it out, if Modern and Pioneer, if you're just learning and you think, well, I'm not ready for a big event yet, well, you probably are. But if you feeling a little gun shy, you can watch coverage here on twitch.tv/NRG Series. We'll be here all weekend then. Modern 10K on Saturday, Pioneer 5K on Sunday, and then the finalization of the leaderboard for the year, and to find out who the 16 players are playing in the Nerd Rage Championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have we have our list of qualified players here today. We have Jonathan Hobbs added as our October player, and some players like Chris Smith had a solid finish and sort of have soft locked their place in the leaderboard. We don't know exactly where they're going to land, obviously, but it's going to be an exciting weekend, like you're mentioning there, Joe and Madison, as we hop into the match.
All right, so Tomajko and Jung, we have a Kahira, which is the first Kahira we've seen, I think, since I've been on this afternoon. And we are ready to get underway. Well, Oliver's not quite ready yet. His hand was too thick with cards. He's going to go drop one. Notice the number 1 and number 2 seeds is who made it out of the top 8. We start with 106 teams, great attendance, 318 total players, and we have 6 players left, but only 3 can have trophies.
Yeah, somebody has to walk away with the W, and we'll see who that is after these games. You're going to notice there's a lot of mirror matches outside of this one. We got a Bean versus Omnath in the middle, sort of pseudo mirrors, and we got an actual Murktide mirror at the bottom. So a lot going on this round.
Yes, indeed. All right, from the chat, is this an RCQ as well? Yes, I believe the winning team all earn invites to the next regional championship. Whether that actually technically turns into that's probably the one next year at this point. We're past the season for Atlanta. But yes, the winning team will get invites. May as well mention now, as they're making the early line drops, this year is the first year the winner of the Nerd Rage Championship will get a full Pro Tour invite. So that's an exciting development for us at Nerd Rage Gaming, and hopefully for those 16 players, a big incentive.
Yeah, I mean, these are showdown events, and all these leaderboards are basically like little mini RCQs and then our RC proper, so with the player championship, and it's only 16 players, so your chances are pretty good even if you're at the bottom of the 16.
All right, so let's Beanstalk from Theo here on the stack, and Oliver is thinking about that, and it's going to resolve. So okay, that's probably the ideal start for Theo.
Yeah, now that we have the Bean in play, we can do things like Evoke Solitude, Evoke Fury with a little bit more leeway, not worry about things going wrong. And Oliver's just going to set up his land drop here with Lorien revealed.
Yeah, has to take a couple of damage to do that, but I doubt he minds too much. Life totals in Modern, or really in Magic, they either matter a ton every single point, or they really don't matter at all.
Yeah, and in this matchup, Theo really cares about his life points. Oliver can't out card advantage, and all he can do is apply pressure with those Rhinos. While Oliver not going to care much about this because Theo can't apply a ton of pressure. So Oliver is looking to ice down this land.
Yeah, he actually may have given some thought to both of those lands because the forest is the only one that can cast another of the beanstalk in case Theo had it, and actually he does.
If you're a Theo Jung fan, this is a great start. Having double beans means not only is Theo thinking about dinner all the time, but when he gets to evoke and play his Leyline Bindings, he's going to go up so many cards. And it's going to be so hard for Oliver to make headway.
Yeah, this is not what he wants to see, and not a card his deck is effectively able to fight against. So 1 card for 2 4/4s is great, but when your opponent is basically free casting and drawing cards all the time, it's your advantage kind of goes away. We'll see.
Yeah, Theo even has the Kahira to pick up to pitch to a Solitude. So, he can only go so wrong.
Telling you what to do. It looks like he's got several land in hand, but anything that's castable that's going to draw 2 new cards is going to reload, and he's not going to be able to flood for too long with 2 beanstalks in play.
And we're going to see Theo try to develop a Wrenn 6. Oliver seemingly had a force negation for the first beanstalk, didn't use it. Probably willing to use it here on Theo's Wrenn.
Yeah, I mean, you got to use it at some point, I suppose. Or maybe you save it for a Leyline Binding at this point, although Theo could easily avoid walking into that by just timing the spell correctly on Oliver's turn. And Wrenn 6 resolves and makes the land up, and Oliver hasn't done anything yet, and Theo is just preparing for the future. All card advantage setups are, locked in.
Yeah, maybe Oliver looking to fight over something like the One Ring instead. If not for the cards, but for the protection.
All right. Violent Outburst, cascading for the first time of the match, looking for Crushing Footfalls. There it is. So Oliver will toss those around a few times, put them on the bottom of the deck, and then put a pair of 4/4s into play. And how long will they last? I think the odds suggest it will not be long.
Yeah, that is the thing with these bean decks is once you cast your first thing that triggers the beans, you start cascading in yourself of card advantage. So we're waiting for the Rhinos proper to get found, and Theo does have some white removal spell at the front of his hand. It is a Leyline Binding, so
yeah, that's a pretty good place to start. This is Theo's own turn, so Oliver will be untapping to attack here. So as long as 1 Rhino survives, then Oliver can at least take out the Wrenn 6.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Oliver, it's possible, if this Leyline Binding does resolve, Theo might have something else to evoke. Looks like Theo just drew a bunch of lands. Maybe he has to move to discard. Maybe he has exactly 7.
I considered that also. Yeah, he's got to be close. He's got to be at the limit, if not over.
Yeah. One nice thing about this matchup, too, is your Leyline Bindings early on, you can use them on Rhinos, and then your Teferi Time Revelers not only stop future Rhinos, but let you reset the bindings if they have a permanent that actually is attacking, like sometimes the main deck, Furies, Bone Crusher Giants, Questing Beasts, etc. And it looks like we're just going to go face.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that has some merit. This Wrenn 6, Theo's unlikely to miss a land drop regardless with 2 up the beanstalks in play, and Oliver does need to get him dead.
Yeah, I really like this play. Theo just drew a bunch of cards. If Theo is missing on lands, his hand's all spells, which means you're probably dead anyways with those beanstalks, and he'll draw into something. So just go face and get across the points when you can now, and hope that Ren and 6, the mana base and the ring, do a couple little chip points so you can get, a Fire Ice or a Stomp or something like that to get the last couple points across.
Mm-hmm. So one ring here from Theo. Theo's hand actually is probably as bad as it could be at this point. There's just doesn't appear to be too many copies of pitch incarnations, and he does have a lot of land.
Yeah, he is went from a second of maybe needing a land to just being flooded with lands. And Oliver has been representing a force negation this whole game. Looks like he's going to let looks like we're still thinking.
All right, it's in there.
Theo does have protection for a turn now.
So drawing a card first here before the land drop allows him to determine, what is he going to? Yeah, can he play a land tapped here, or does he have a reason to justify taking extra damage or playing one untapped? And answer appears to be no.
Yeah, looks like end of turn Oliver is going to Violent Outburst, get some more Rhinos, and this might be what Oliver is planning: is this turn a Violent Outburst, then next turn I'll hard cast Shardless Agent, and then you'll have your one turn with the ring to kind of do your thing. But I'll have so many Rhinos in play, maybe I can overwhelm your 1-for-1 spot removal despite you having the ring and the beans.
Okay, this time Theo does have discard to hand size. And does Oliver have... What do we have this relevant? So instead of Questing Beast, or maybe in addition to it, he's playing Bone Crusher Giant, right? So that would be a route here, but he doesn't appear to have that either.
Yeah, looks like Oliver is just thinking through if he wants to do anything after attacking this Ren 6. Sort of playing through his whole turn, then executing.
Mm-hmm.
There is some amount of you have to double check your work in Modern as well, because even though there's no mana up, your opponent might have a spell still because of the Solitudes. So here comes Murktide.
All right. Yeah, here's a Gigantor Murktide. So Oliver with a humongous board presence. We'll just see if it matters. And maybe it will. I mean, Theo, this is a lot to deal with. But his deck is capable.
Yeah, I think we picked up a Leyline Binding there. So that's going to be a 1 mana kill something and then redraw on 2. Now, worth noting, Oliver does have Subtlety in hand. So things like Solitude and Fury won't actually hit the board.
All right, Binding will take down the Murktide, right? There are some Prismatic Endings, I think, in Theo's hand. Those won't draw new cards without excess mana, but they will take down Rhinos.
Mm-hmm. Double Prismatic Ending there for Theo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Theo's hand is awful.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. I'm sure Oliver would be surprised to see how decent of a position he's actually in at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure Oliver's just thinking like, I'm so unlucky. This is so bad, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could see this, that hand's like basically just 8 lands.
Yeah.
I think one's a Boseiju, which is kind of nice normally, but in this matchup, I don't think it has much text.
Well, Isaac Bullwinkle would have destroyed all the betting lines if there were any by having the middle match actually be the first one to complete a game during our finals, as he is taking the first one from Derrick Davis.
I wonder if that's a situation where Derrick was just very far behind on a mulligan, had a bunch of beans, was just like, whatever, I'm probably going to lose. Let's just move on. Our lives are too short. Be curious to know what happened with those players. But I can't tell if Oliver is thinking about end of turning a fire in order to do some more damage. But if he does, he doesn't have the blue card for the subtlety. All right, looks like he's just untapping.
All right, so same scenario again, and likely he will again attack Theo and not Ren 6, although he has to decide now. He can't change his mind next turn. Once Ren 6 gets to 5. Okay, it does come across. Theo drops to 7. I guess Subtlety now is a lethal attack combined with the Rhino. And, well, actually, with the 1 ring ticking down, it's already covered anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty weird here too because all of her also has Fire Ice. So
Mhm.
Theo's at like a pseudo 5.
Right.
Sorry, a pseudo 3. Excuse me. Well,
There's a
there's a Fury.
Fury. Yeah.
So here's the thing, though. So we have the subtlety. Yeah, I was gonna say we need to actually draw spells because we don't have anything to pitch beforehand. But
Well, you could just hard cast it, but yeah, then the um,
subtlety.
subtlety would have been a problem. And now with Omnath and all the friends he just found, Theo likely is in good shape here to safely do this. He's going to start with the Fury. This is smart as the draw 2 comes through, and then if this gets subtletied, then he can Omnath and redraw it and do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he also has Bolt plus Ren 6 minus. So if that had gotten fought over, still had the Rhino covered. He has Teferi 3 and Omnath in hand. If you lead on Teferi, I guess whichever one you lead on is probably going to get answered. Teferi will force an answer, which means your Omnath will probably resolve. But
the obvious problem with that is if you lead on the Teferi, then you're not going to get the life gain trigger, which you would not mind having. So Omnath comes out first.
Yeah, this is interesting. So wait, I think his life total's at 5, right? Because the ring triggered. We just didn't update the life totals, or am I mistaken? Because we were at 11, attack for 4, down to 7, down to 5. Ring is going to put us to 2.
Yeah.
Fire Ice is going to kill us. I think Theo might be dead because he can't gain any life, and Oliver Tomajko has Fire Ice.
You could be right. Let's see. Well, I mean, so that's Omnath's going to go to the top.
Yeah, I mean, we have Bolt for the subtlety, but I'm not sure how. I mean, I guess Oliver might overthink the Fire Ice, but with only 1 mana up, I can't imagine a player of Oliver Tomajko's level not at least seeing the line, whether he chooses to take or not. I don't know. He does seem to be firing off that fire. Yeah, and Theo's dead.
Wow.
I mean, I guess he can activate the ring and get 2 solitudes to solitude one another. But no, it just
that's impressive work by Oliver Tomajko. Maybe a little bit of unfortunate draws for Theo Jung, and Oliver's team is up game 1 in 2 of the matches.
So it looks like the Murktide matchup also just finished.
Okay, so we don't decide which side was up there, but this was now the second seed. So at least 2 of the players won on the draw that game there. And that was a testament to, if things look bad, if you keep battling out and making the right plays, sometimes things end up your way. Sometimes your opponent does draw badly.
Yeah, I mean, you have all these lands, and you have cards that are like lands with Lorien revealed, and sometimes things just don't line up even when you have all of the cards that is Magic. That's part of what makes Magic such a great game, is that the mana system sometimes allows for comebacks. And so, Theo is probably, if we go that exact same sequence of first 3 turns, I bet you Theo wins 95+% of them, but didn't win one of those times, and that's what matters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Every point mattered there, as Theo did go to exactly 0. With that fire. So Oliver, I don't know if it's necessarily say I want to stole the first game, but things certainly did not look good. And
I think steal's a fine one.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
You're a bit behind. Right. It happens.
Well, whatever. Okay. The middle table is drawing their opening hands. They've completed sideboarding first, so let's go drop down there and see how Derrick and Izzet get things going. See how if Derrick can even this up. So Maxx did win the game 1 on the third match, so not a clean sweep of game 1s for Tomajko, Bullwinkle, and Lee. And it looks like they're drawing their opening hands, and at least one of the players looks like Derrick Davis found his unsatisfying.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Once again, we don't have the players' deck list. Melee hasn't super support team tournaments that well. Maybe tweet at Melee, let them know that we would love to have that fixed ASAP. But there might be some small differences here because Izzet has Kahira, which means things like Ellistorn aren't in play, Delight Halfling aren't in play. We know Derrick Davis definitely plays Delight Halfling.
Sure. All right. So Derrick Davis selecting a card to put back here.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 cards to put back. All right, that's a rough start. Although, if these decks can make it into the middle phases of the game, those cards might be recoverable by once. I mean, on turn 8, if you have 6 cards versus 4, that's not probably overly significant. But on turn 3, when you have 4 cards versus 2, that could make a difference and snowball a game.
100%. Both these players, very accomplished. Izzet Bullwinkle, someone that if you play a lot of Magic Online, you know that player. They are constantly crushing it there and innovating on deck lists. Derrick Davis, someone we saw in our Players Championship this last year. Also, you saw on the Pro Tour, all will be one top 8. And at Worlds, thanks to that Pro Tour top 8 there, been having a killer year and a half or so.
Yeah, really impressive stuff. All right, Izzet with Ren and 6. So yeah, now with Up the Beanstalk, these decks just have 2 sets of really great plays on turn 2. See if Derrick Davis can match here.
Yeah, one thing.
I was gonna say he's gonna need something. I mean, Ren 6 is one of these cards that doesn't necessarily snowball out. He's got several turns to deal with it, but he will have to eventually.
Yeah, 2 things matter the most in the 4-color mirror, and that's mana and card advantage. In that order, if you have the more mana and you don't miss your land drops, you can consistently play all your cards because your cards are so good at replacing themselves that you need to make that mana. So Derrick not having the Ren 6 lined up sort of puts the advantage bar a little bit in Izzet's corner, because if Derrick had it, we would both be making all our land drops to be a lot better. But if he misses a land here and doesn't have enough spells that he can play for free, Izzet is going to start snowballing a bit harder, a bit sooner.
All right, Fable's a good card, good at setting things up for the future, getting action on the board, generating mana, like you're saying, that's important, but it doesn't actually generate free cards in hand, and not able to generate mana unless Izzet lets it. We'll see what the follow-up is here. Turn 3, can this token be dealt with?
I know I've said this twice now. We haven't gotten an answer. Maybe production can look at the deck list for me. Like maybe they have it. We have watched a lot of Derrick Davis this weekend. I don't think I've seen the ring ever for Derrick. I think he isn't playing it.
Oh, maybe we can't get an answer to that. In the meantime,
Yeah, I mean,
Izzet will see if he can deal. I mean, again, just like the Ren 6. I mean, the Fable is not something you necessarily have to deal with right away. You just kind of would like to.
Okay, yeah. Production is saying they have our deck list. Production, if you could just look at Derrick Davis for me and tell me if he has any copies of the One Ring, because I just haven't seen them when he fetches. I haven't seen them in his hand. I mean, maybe there is one right now. That's typically how these things go on coverage. But like, all right, so he has 2. Okay, so Derrick not running the full 4. That explains why we haven't seen it yet. So only 2 is going to put Derrick in a little bit of a disadvantage in these sort of extremely ring-heavy matchups, but pays off in other places. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, so there is the Ren 6 being thrown away. Kahir was picked up during Izzet's turn and pitched to Solitude to take down the Fable token. So Izzet denying Derrick the ability to ramp up the mana. And then Derrick does, in fact, miss a land drop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is bad news. This Omnath is also bad news for Derrick. If he can't answer it, Izzet is going to have a ton more mana than him if there's a fetch land. And here is the One Ring. Awesome. Perfect. Derrick heard me talking crap about not ever drawing it, so he's like, fine, I'll draw it.
Yeah, One Ring's in now, but that's not gonna stop Omnath from generating a ton of mana for Izzet. And the fact that, Izzet probably would have said, you know what, if you're protected for a turn and I get to have, run away with Omnath, that's maybe okay. As we can see, whoa, he's got a bunch of lands in hand too, but there are some cards towards the left side of his hand. So we'll see if we can find some fireworks here.
Izzet doing a little bit of counting, making sure that we have the right mana. Izzet, Bullwinkle seeming to be thinking about them beans.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good place to start. Solitude and probably Fury in hand. No targets at the moment. But already,
Oh, yeah.
a semi-productive turn. Anything more would be great. And looks like Prismatic Ending. 4-5 on the One Ring. Will net Izzet a card as well as deny Derrick future ones.
Yeah, Twitch chat's asking if Derrick's playing the beans. I do believe we saw Derrick had beans earlier in the day, so this hasn't drawn them here. Maybe behind the scenes person can tell me if we have any beans for Derrick Davis.
We'll get a look at their deck list in a moment, maybe between games if there's another one. Here's an Omnath for Derrick. And that's going to resolve, but it may not still exist when... No, okay. Derrick's going to be allowed to advance into his turn. Does not have a fetch land, though. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, I think that's what Izzet was thinking is you didn't have a land last turn. If you draw a fetch land, I'll just respond to the fetch, and I'll just hard cast my Solitude with this fetch land in order to not go down on cards, since cards and mana is what matters.
Mm-hmm. All right, so yeah, now being back to his own turn, Izzet is now able to hard cast one of the incarnations. Either one can take down the Omnath and then net him another card because of the Beanstalk, net him some life because of the Omnath. And yeah, this is proceeding probably pretty textbook as far as Izzet Bullwinkle is concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is what he set his deck up to do. Hard cast the Fury, get rid of the Omnath. We drew an up the Beanstalk.
Yeah, cleans up the board with Teferi. And another Beanstalk. Oh, this is becoming a significant advantage here for Izzet Bullwinkle.
And the match that we thought maybe would be, it ended up being the deciding match just because of how long it could take, is quickly getting out of hand here for Derrick Davis. He does have a handful of spells because he's been missing land drops, but they need to be good spells. And if we have something like an Omnath, we need to get a fetch land to go along with it.
There's his other copy of the One Ring. So he's making up for the other games we didn't see it in by drawing both of them this time around.
Yeah. It's also pretty unfortunate for Derrick. Fable the Mirror Breaker, very strong once flipped, but just can't copy legendary creatures, so we're not able to get the Omnath. So
yeah, Leyline Binding picks that off the One Ring, and now Derrick Davis has no more rings to load up and draw cards off of to refill his hand. And really, that's what he could use right now. He's not missing land drops the last couple turns anyway, but his hand size is depleted at this point. A third of the Beanstalk for Izzet.
So now we have to talk about the fun part, Joe, which is players, when we get to this point, actually decking comes up all the time. Your deck has so many spells that you're drawing 3, and in general, your deck moves through itself pretty quickly, that I'm curious what Izzet's way to not deck is. Every player plays something. A lot of people just play Endurance in the main deck because it's a good, hate card in other spots, but we'll have to see what Izzet is doing here because both players understand decking is very much a real part of these games in a large percentage of them.
Yeah, and a few hours ago we talked about Ivan Espinosa trying out playing full 80 cards anyway. And the primary reason, there's probably several reasons why players are experimenting with 62, 65, however many cards in these kinds of decks. Is avoiding decking is one of the significant factors, right?
Mm-hmm. It legitimately comes up all the time. There's just, you draw so many cards, and especially these kind of matchups, you just end up like going a while because people have a hard time killing each other. So it turns out like drawing a lot of cards really good, and then at a certain point it kind of topples over. It's like, oh, I actually have to kill you, and I have 9 cards left, and I have no threats, and all my threats make me draw 3 cards. So you'll see players sometimes even prismatic ending their own cards like up the Beanstalk to prevent themselves from drawing a bunch of cards.
All right. Well, Derrick rescues one of his rings from underneath Leyline Binding, and now it's the fairy on the board. Maybe back in business a little bit here.
I like this a lot. The Leyline Binding is going to come back, and now the Leyline Binding is going to grab something, and Derrick can get that binding again if he wants, and has the white mana for it as a way to maybe free his One Ring again to draw another card.
Yeah, now we're getting to see more of how sometimes these games can take a long time as both players get established and can defend themselves. Then the fact that Derrick went to 5 is maybe not so relevant if he can survive another turn or two.
Yeah, we have a Dovin's Veto in hand for Derrick. We also have dueling Teferi Time Raveler, so pretty rough. Yeah, we can do the same trick. Binding your binding. We have Teferi's. Only thing that can really stop this is Boseiju, which is an important thing. In this matchup, we're talking about beams, we're talking about Leyline Bindings. Boseiju can be a really important card, as it looks like Fury is found as a way to clean up Fury and then tick a point on the Teferi Time Raveler.
All right. Well, productive exchanges for Derek Davis, rebuilding his hand while gaining a little bit of ground. And this is shaping up into a real game.
Yeah, Izzet has this good setup. It's really a matter of, can he use it? We saw this happen to Theo last game, where he wasn't able to use his strong setup of beans early. Now Izzet, I think, has a few more spells in hand, but can be a problem for sure.
Yeah, I mean, three up the beanstalks is going to overpower these One Rings running one card at a time for quite a while. But yeah, you're definitely speaking truth about the risk of decking eventually. I mean, that's a long ways away, but I mean, no damage is being dealt right now, so or not much. So it is a real factor. And Derrick protected by the One Ring again this turn, I believe.
Fury draw 3.
Not too bad.
And Ren 6 coming down.
Izzet determining which pair of lands to discard the hand size here. And now back to Derrick.
Twitch chat brings up a good point about something, and this is a card we've seen 4-color players actually play. I think Izzet might have approach with the second sun in his hand, which is just you gain 7 life the first time you play it, and the second time you cast one from hand, you win the game. So if that was the card in Izzet's hand, that would do a really good job at actually winning the games. And we've seen players do this on occasion as a way to sort of one-up each other, sort of Emrakul of old, but really the going super duper over the top version.
Well, that would be exciting to see. As chat points out correctly, that the One Ring triggers like casting. So the fact that Derrick rescued it from Leyline Binding, I incorrectly stated that he was protected for the turn.
But Izzet forgot. Didn't attack with the Omnath. Got him. Making sure left tools are right. Derrick's going to pick up the Solitude. Save that for another threat later. I mean, once again, if Izzet doesn't have a way, or I'm going to evoke pitching Dovin's Veto to get rid of the Omnath. If Izzet doesn't have a way to not deck, killing all these threats could legitimately be a way, because Derek Davis is definitely down on cards and is up on cards in deck, compared to Izzet Bullwinkle.
Right. Well, if approach is in fact the plan here, I guess pitching Dovin's Veto may eventually matter, although that would mean dealing with Teferi Time Raveler first.
I am going to guess that if we had the approach, we would have played it, because we would have then cast Leyline Binding and drawn 3 cards. So I'm going to assume that wasn't the card. Because it's not like you even have to cast it right away. You just want to get that first one on the game state ASAP. So
right. And it does, I mean, there is incentive to run it out while you're protected right to Fairy, because that may not last forever, and then you don't want to get it countered. do appreciate the players playing fairly quickly here. This is impressive. Obviously, experienced players in the matchup and with their decks. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see this kind of pace.
All right, and Maxx Kominowski has won his second game against Russell Lee, and Maxx, like I said, is sort of one of the Murktide guys. If you want to play Murktide, you typically go to Maxx to figure out what to do. So, Russell Lee, a very strong player, we saw actually miss out on our top 8 yesterday, but Maxx has a lot of experience and that can go a long way in Modern. So that's going to put the team of Theo and Derrick in a good position.
Yes, indeed. Although they are down games in both of their 2 matches. So we could still be here for quite a while. A Solitude from Izzet will net some cards and take down the Fable token. And now Omnath does come across. And Derrick's life total isn't that high. Nor is his hand size all that big.
Yeah, I mean, Izzet has all of the goodies and does have the endurance in hand to prevent any decking situation happening. So as long as that endurance resolves, doesn't get Solitude or something weird. By the way, Izzet has Boseiju in hand. So cards like Leyline Binding and the Bean from Derrick are not going to be as effective. And yeah, you see Izzet discard the Bean in a fetch land.
Land draw for Derrick. Not what he needs. But I guess with Fable in play, you can exchange him. I thought production told us there's 2 Wondrings. Maybe there's another one in the sideboard. Because we do see another one come down here.
Also possible production, maybe misread 2 for 3. They're pretty similar. They got that curve to them, Another Fable Mirror Breaker for Derrick Davis.
Okay, so yeah, we just get confirmation. There is a copy of the One Ring in Derrick Davis' sideboard. So, and we now see it in play.
For the grindy matchups.
All right, Hardcast Fury, net 3 cards. Take a token out and some loyalty off Renisix, and Renisix has finished off that, worked out conveniently well. There is a Lightning Bolt in Isaac's hand also, and Derrick's going to be dropping down to 7 here. There's a fetch land in play.
Yeah, that fetch in play with Omnath, if we get another one next turn, that could be all she wrote. Yeah, I kind of like this play by Izzet here. He's resetting the ring, but now, if he goes to activate the ring, then he's going to get gone. We're going to invoke the Endurance, pitching Omnath, and we're going to have it stacked where the ability resolves after the evoke trigger. That way the Endurance is back in our deck so that we will not deck again.
Davis attempts to draw 1 card. That's going to be negated by the Leyline Binding, which is also going to net 3 cards for Izzet. And Derrick kind of just like shuffles his hands like, I don't have much going on here. Leave me alone.
Bullwinkle discarded 3 the One Rings. Didn't need them.
This has been a pretty one-sided game. Davis has been able to, draw some cards, make land drops, gain some advantages, but it's been just completely overpowered by what Izzet has going on.
Yeah, the Beans getting down early, replacing themselves, and then getting you that instant card. The One Ring might give you more cards over a long game, on its own. But when the Bean stuff starts churning, it gets out of control very quickly.
All right, Omnath. If Derrick can regain some life, that would prove relevant. However, Izzet is ready to go. With Leyline Binding.
I think snap binding probably, last time we saw him let it resolve. It's probably just trying to prevent anything from getting out of hand here. Derrick did have a fetch land, so he's going to gain 3 life.
Isaac's going to reload. 3 more cards. Yeah. Derrick Davis's hand size is stuck at the level that Isaac is drawing for each spell he casts.
Yeah.
Is that Dovin's Veto in the land pile? I don't think that's where that's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think that's Derrick Davis conceding because on board there's 11 damage, we're at 11 life. Yeah. So congratulations for Isaac Bullwinkle giving his teammate Oliver Tomajko the chance to win this tournament here. Let's see if we can go up to the top match.
All right, here we are. And not every day you see double Chalice on 0 in play.
Yeah, I wonder how we got there. Maybe a little flickering action somehow.
Yeah, something along those lines. All right, anyway, one of the obstacles for Oliver casting Rhinos is Dispatch. Just the fairy goes down, but Theo's hand is reminiscent of Isaac's hand from 2 minutes ago on the other table.
Yeah, I think this is a moment of, obviously we've been here the whole time, but the game's been going for a bit. I can kind of see the board state, and maybe, Chalice of the Void helped a little bit in this game compared to game 1, but I think a very similar thing had happened for Theo where, Oliver got some early damage. We had this bean to go the distance, but this time Theo didn't draw every land in his deck and instead hit some spells.
Yeah. All right, so the other 4 players are spectators or consultants for the rest, depending on their level of expertise. But Oliver Tomajko and Theo Jung are going to battle it out to see whose team wins the Modern Team Trios event here at Nerd Rage, Indianapolis.
Blood Moon going to make it a little bit harder to multi-spell, but we can probably still cast most of our spells proper.
All right, Omnath in, land still gained. There are the 3 basics, so Fury's still alive to be hardcast.
Yeah, I think I don't want to call it too soon, but this getting the Omnath on the board and the life gain, if we get one more turn of kind of this board state, it's going to be very favored Theo. Oliver just passes the turn back.
This allows the Dovin's Veto to come online if Theo doesn't have anything better to do. Continue to gain life, like you said. And now Omnath can just going to start swinging. Are we going to see maybe another Teferi here?
Yeah, just get Teferi Time Rattler down just to make sure nothing like a Force of Vigor blows up the chalices. And then, you cast a Cascader and eat the Rhino. So... Theo's doing something with 3 mana, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's a Cosmic Rebirth? No. Just have the white mana.
Just looking for land in the graveyard. Or is this... Yeah, this is a graveyard, not the exile zone. Maybe he's deciding whether it's too early to throw out an Endurance just to, restock the deck, or does he want to avoid reflooding himself by putting all those fetch lands back in. But that is 2 red taps. So, okay. Well, he's just bluffing us.
Yeah. Oh, it's also possible he accidentally picked up the wrong lands.
Yeah.
Here's 4 mana for the ring. Commandeer. Hard cast.
That's an exciting one. I don't know if he'll get through that Dovin's Veto, though. Baleful Summer will not stop that.
Yeah.
But Dovin's Veto will.
Yeah, and Oliver's going to pack it up there. Pretty reasonable concession. Maybe 0.0001% to win, but not realistic. Save your brain power. Move on to the next game.
All right, so we got 1 game left. I don't know how many games were played all weekend, but it was obviously in the hundreds and hundreds, and we've got 1 more. If you want to let us know in the chat or on Twitch or on Twitter, who's your favorite, who you think is going to win, go ahead and do so. We'll maybe look at some of the comments. But Mason, I mean, fatigue's a factor. Having your teammates in your ear is invigorating, maybe to counter that out. And yeah, we are almost at the end.
Yeah, and we do have the deck list for these players. So let's pull them up real quick, and we can talk about that while they are shuffling. So here's Oliver Tomajko's Rhino deck list. Pretty stock, all things considered. We saw the Commandeer come in, those Blood Moons come in. We're not on the draw. You also bring in the Gemstone Cavern. The Boseiju is definitely going to be in as a way to kill Beans and Leyline Binding. I would imagine it might be a situation where you don't want to, but typically you're going to bring in the Boseiju over the Gemstone Caverns in the main when you're on the play, even if it's not the greatest in the world. Fury is a good way to answer Omnath stuff. So we might see Oliver go in all that different directions.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then we've got Theo's deck. We can see this one's probably more interesting as these decks, I don't know if there is a stock list exactly of these being control decks.
Not these days. We have Flusterstorm, Veil of Summer, Dovin's Veto, Chalice of the Void as all cards that jump out as being quite impactful.
Mm-hmm. Notable that despite being on the same team together, Derrick Davis with 2+1 rings, and Theo's got all 4 in the main deck. So
yeah, this is a thing that's pretty interesting to me, right? Like, I mean, trust your friends, right? If you're playing the tournament or whatever, but so rarely do we actually see teams do the all of something, right? And actually succeed. That's not typically how things go. In fact, our all scam team in the top 8 is sort of a oddity more than anything. So, difference in play pattern, different approaches, just kind of shows, one, skill matters a lot in these formats, and 2, there's a lot of different ways to play these games and approach the problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if skill didn't matter, we wouldn't see the same players consistently doing well. All right, so players drawing opening hands. We can go back down to the table and see how this finishes up. Number 1 overall seed team, Theo Jung member, has the play here, as they did go according to the player on the play has won both games so far. We'll see if Oliver can break serve, maybe with the help of that Gemstone Cavern.
Yeah, and Oliver might not be using that one being on the play, but Theo does have Chalice of the Void, which is a way to break serve.
I'm sorry, you're right. It was Oliver won. No, Oliver's in the play this game. You're right. I got it backwards.
It's all good. Long weekend for us here in the booth too, as Oliver is going to start with a Crouching Footfalls on suspend.
Okay, well, if you're going to suspend it, it may as well be turn 1, but there is a Chalice in Theo's hand. And it does come down right away. I feel like there's kind of 2 approaches to that. Either you throw it down immediately, so if they have a force negation, they have to pitch when their hand is smaller, or you wait a couple turns until, wait until Oliver's on the verge of being able to get to turn 3 and cascade, so he has less time to deal with it.
Yeah, and interesting. I would have thought Theo might do something like play a land first, to at least make Oliver consider Veil of Summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think Theo has a Triome in hand, so he doesn't actually want to bluff that, because the bluff, he doesn't have it, so it doesn't really matter, and it might throw his mana off for the rest of the game. And now I think Oliver is thinking about, 1, can I beat this? And 2, he's like, there's no way Theo kept a no lander with Chalice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he did. Maybe you get the force negation. 2 days of Magic's going to hit Theo. We know that not to be true, but force negation, pitching subtlety.
All right, there is the Triumph you mentioned, and Oliver takes down the Footfalls, and we'll move on. Some real indecision on Oliver's second land drop, it appears.
Yeah, it looks like he's talking to his teammates. I wonder if there's some fire ice action happening where it's like, do we fire this turn to keep Theo off mana, or do we save this to push damage or tap him down on a, maybe a later turn? Because it might be a situation where Oliver doesn't have the Cascader rolled up yet, and thinks that Theo might have a chance to play Teferi before that.
All right, Lorien revealed cycle will find a basic island. So Oliver can threaten a Blood Moon. Theo does have a Fletchland in play, which will likely also fetch a basic, although he does have basically Island and a Windswept Heath in hand already. So Theo is pretty well covered for a possible Blood Moon.
And Theo not fetching.
Mm-hmm.
Wants to draw some lands. Yeah, has Teferi Time Raveler in hand. Also, just has a bunch of the One Rings in hand. So kind of like, even if you wanted to maybe save your Teferi for various reasons, you're pretty incentivized just to jam it because your mana is going to be spent over the next couple of turns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And here it is. So does Oliver have a counter? Does he have a Violent Outburst? Does he have... Well, we'll wait and find out.
Definitely has something.
Mm-hmm. I would certainly hope so. It's a Mystical Dispute. All right, that works. Teferi's out of here. It's going to be tough, though, for this set of Rhinos, or two sets of Rhinos, to get through these sequence of One Rings. But, I don't know how many cards are left in Oliver's hand. If there's a Force Negation remaining or a Commandeer, he might be able to just end the game almost in one shot through, if he can stop the next One Ring that comes into play. I guess not completely, which is frustrating, I'm sure, for his side. Is it's only going to be, 10, and then 18 at that point, but that would be plenty.
Yeah, I mean, if you were able to get all of them across, should be good. But you're going to be able to attack for 10 next turn if the ring doesn't resolve, and then those Rhinos will come down. So, yeah, Oliver double checking what's in his, Cascade pile as well to make sure that he knows so he doesn't play towards the wrong cards.
Yeah, that's good on him. It's rare to see someone, I feel like, so thoroughly examine their own pile. Usually it's just hand to the opponent and then goes in the bottom. But Oliver Tomajko taking advantage of all the information available to him here.
Yep.
So another Teferi, I think, for Theo.
Yeah, if this sticks, that's going to stop the footfalls from coming down, and it did.
Yeah, that's pretty big. That effectively stops 3 4/4s by itself, even though it's going to die, and absorbs 2 damage.
Yeah, big turn there. And also, Theo knows the coast is clear, most likely on the next turn, right? There's no force negation, nothing like that. So if Oliver spends his mana again, Theo might be able to develop the One Ring. I mean, I like this attack.
Yeah, so that's a conservative approach if that was both at Teferi, just to make sure it goes down.
Yeah, I think
But
it
does
was.
make sense. Yeah.
Especially with the second Shardless in hand, we just need to make sure that we can get the Rhinos on board. We know Theo doesn't have anything like Supreme Verdict. We doesn't have an EE. So if we get these Rhinos on board, we are going to have to battle through all of them.
Yeah. So now it looks like 16 on the board for Oliver, which is not a lethal connection. Although almost. And with Fire Ice is looming potentially to finish things off. But only one card in hand, and that's significant for Theo, as he knows his One Rings are going to resolve.
Picks up a Leyline Binding. That's a good way to start answering one of the Rhinos. Looks like we're just going to do this now before Mystical Dispute can be hard cast.
Makes sense. I suppose, unless you're planning on running out another One Ring next turn, in which case I think I'd rather have my binding get countered.
True. Great point. Yeah, I guess it's interesting, right? I can't see all of Theo's hand, but if you have, more One Rings and more, if your hand's just oops all rings and bindings, which one do you care more about? And we're not exactly sure. I do sort of lean towards you with the ring, but bindings, are actually answering the problem. And worth noting, Oliver only has one more Crashing Footfalls left in his deck. Now he might have an endurance to shuffle some back in, but for the moment, we only have 2 more sets of 4/4s to battle through.
So what's Oliver hoping to break through here with? I mean, Bone Crusher Giant would let him get a shot in, although it wouldn't be lethal right now, but it's still significant. What else is just drawing counters to prevent future One Rings, things like that?
Yeah, if you've ever played Legacy Delver, which I know you've played against a bunch, I think this is a classic moment of just wants to have the protection spells so that these Delver equivalents can cross the finish line.
Yeah.
Theo with an interesting moment here of, if I play Omnath, I'm exposed to Mystical Dispute and Subtlety. If I play the One Ring, I'm weak to Force Negation and Mystical Dispute as well. So how do I go and what do I lead on? I kind of like the One Ring and just because if this one gets countered, your Omnath will stabilize better than the One Ring will.
All right, so that does go down, and then I think there's another binding maybe in Theo's hands. So yep, there it is. So even now he's only facing 8.
Yeah, and he will take 2 from the ring. So Theo at a pseudo 7 life here.
That's still pretty high. That's still something that Oliver's going to have dealing with without going through combat. And there's only one Rhino left now. One more binding or Teferi or
Ending.
Even Omnath.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a very quick activation of the One Ring. I think we're going to see Theo trying to find something like, oh, you look, Eli, he left up the green mana this time, almost as if he found a Veil of Summer or something. You could just be out of bindings, but Theo does have 2 left in the deck, so this might be a spot where Omnath is going to get played, and then from there, play some lands, gain some life, block.
Yeah, all right. There is the draw, no response. I guess the fetch is already played, safe. Yeah, bang, there we go.
Advantage bar swings Theo's direction.
Yeah, even more so than it already was. I mean, Oliver was hoping for a window there, but it's closing.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see Theo fetch just some miscellaneous lane here, maybe something tapped. Yeah, and then cast into the One Ring to get rid of the burn encounters. And now, Theo has protection for a turn, has an Omnath in play. Oliver has to answer the Omnath in play, and there's another Omnath in Theo's hand, so he can even trade with the Rhino if he's feeling aggressive. Here comes the One Ring.
And Oliver does have another counter.
Yeah. Worth noting, when the team of Theo, Maxx, and Connor Mullally won their last tournament together, Theo was the one who clutched it up against Piper Powell. See if Theo can do it against another great player in Oliver Tomajko. Little upkeep fetch, lose 1, gain 4, net 3, call it a day.
Yeah, that's a nice way to handle the One Ring tax. We're appear to be reaching near the end here as Oliver's forces now, even if they got through, aren't enough to close the game out. And there are obstacles aplenty in Omnath, in Solitudes in hand. And Theo's life total is just growing.
Yeah, you see Oliver kind of playing with it. It's like, can I even do anything else? Probably not. Let's attack.
Yeah.
And this is the real sign of strength here from Theo. Just, I'm going to block the Rhino with my Omnath. Get that off the board. And Theo's got 2 Solitudes too, so a little surprised actually. Not, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Let's just if we're gonna do something a little quote unquote wasteful, let's just block the Shardless. I mean, Dead Gone is something that could happen, but you have so much mana, you can beat everything but Subtlety, and you can just activate the Ring again to get around the Subtlety, and so Solitude on the Rhino,
and yeah, having the extra one. Yeah, there's just no. Does Oliver to have what, 1 or no cards left? I mean, this is just so difficult to work through, and there's more everything for Theo.
Yeah, we also didn't do damage that turn, right? Because Theo just used Boseiju on the Shardless agent, which means the other Shardless agent, I believe, is dead from combat damage. So now Theo has just completely evaporated the board, and Oliver does have another Shardless, so he's going to get those last 2 Rhinos, but I haven't seen an Endurance flipped over. So Murktide, I think, is our last big threat here for Oliver Tomajko, and it's a good one, but those are all going to the bottom right now as we flip over the deck.
Yeah, and Theo also obviously is going to know as well that there aren't any more copies after this one. So it's just 2 4/4s left, basically, to win the tournament.
And we've seen this time and time again. These sort of strong tempo-y decks are very good, and they can struggle if they ever make it to the mid to late game against these 4-color type controlling decks. True of Modern, true of Legacy.
Yeah, and game 1, kind of resembled this, but it wasn't as extreme. And Oliver was able to pull that one out, but the life totals were lower. The board position was more threatening, and Theo was flooded just to an incredible degree. And that's not the case here. And his hand is stocked with goodies. And yeah, life totals continuing to go up, not down.
Yeah, and now Theo's picked up Veil of Summer as well, so cards like Force and Negation are not going to be a huge problem.
Yeah, running Beanstongs off the top of the deck at the Fairy.
And there's a Fury. We can evoke our Omnath to kill the other Rhino. Oh, we can just hard cast because we can fetch. Yeah, that works too.
His teammates must be feeling quite excited at this point, pinching each other with excitement, as Theo, Jung, Derrick Davis, and Maxx Kominowski are looking primed to take down this tournament. 106 teams showed up. 1 will walk out here with trophies, and Theo is about to secure it for his team.
Yeah. And we're probably going to see Theo just start attacking with the Omnath, because the only way Theo can lose now is decking.
Yeah, having the One Ring being Oliver's sitting on 2 land. I think Boseiju and a Foothills. Yeah, and that's it. Do you have more than 2 cards left? All right, and that's it. Oliver Tomajko will concede. Theo, Jung, Derrick Davis, and Maxx Kominowski will win the NRG Modern Team event here in Indianapolis. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to all the teams that showed up and played, but there can only be 1 winner, and we will talk to them in a few moments if they're available. Mason Clark, that was kind of how that match. That wasn't a shocking result, right?
Yeah, and specifically that matchup, we sort of talked about it right at the beginning. If we make it to the mid game and we're not under the gun at 2-3 life, we're probably going to get out of there. And honestly, Theo kind of did it 3 times, right? I said if Theo had that same game 1 play out, but we just shuffle our deck and draw different cards, we're probably going to win. And that's what seemed to happen in both game 2 and 3. Game 2 looks like we had some Chalice of the Void help, but still, that is something that you can expect with this deck that draws and sees so many cards. And we have Theo in the booth to talk about that W. So let's cut down to him.
All right.
Congratulations, Theo, on your W. How are you feeling?
Feels great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, that was impressive work there. Now in the finals, the first game looked, it was okay, and then kind of on the edge, and then Oliver managed to steal it away from you. Like, were you still confident going into the Cyborg games, or was that kind of a blow there?
No, I thought I was gonna get like rinsed. But they bored out all their dead guns, bring in like more subtleties, disputes, and Blood Moon, so it only gets worse. Got pretty lucky to be able to pull that one out. Yeah, but like game one, I just drew like 6 cards off the ring or whatever, and then at one point my hand was like 7 lands, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah, that was impressive stuff. Can you put the mic a little closer to your mouth there? And or production can turn up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you flooded out like to an incredible degree in game one. And that's just, and Mason and I talked about that's just unlikely to repeat itself. And the 2 Cyborg games kind of developed the same way. You didn't flood to an absurd degree, and you managed to take it down.
Yeah, definitely lucky to have it play out the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nice. It's not all luck, though. There's a lot of skill, a lot of practice, a lot of development that goes into this. Tell us a bit about your teammates here. How were they? I mean, you're the last one playing in the finals. Yeah. Were they kind of just standing off, letting you do your thing, or were they like crowding next to you, trying to give advice, whether you needed it or not?
I'm generally someone who doesn't want advice while playing, and I don't tend to give out advice while playing, because usually I find that whenever I suggest something, I'm just like pretty unaware of what's going on in the game, because I haven't played the game from like turn 1 to like turn 7, and I'm just missing all like the information and the reads that my teammate might have. So as just like a general like rule, I just try not to interfere or give advice, and I think largely we did that today. There were times where like Derrick had some sideboarding input or on a mulligan decision, because he's also played a lot of 4-color as well.
Makes a ton of sense. Well, Theo, congratulations on your win. I'm sure you're excited to go get some food and have your good trip home. So have a safe one, buddy. We'll see you in our future events.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye.
All right. Impressive work by those guys and everyone else that was here. 106 teams down to 1 set of victors. Everyone that was here watching this weekend, we had Pioneer yesterday, Modern today. Hopefully a good time was had by all. This is not the last event of the year. Before we sign off, let's go through one more time what the last event actually is. Thanksgiving weekend in Wisconsin, in Madison, we are going to have a Pioneer 10K showdown. I'm sorry, a Modern 10K showdown, Pioneer 5K trial. If you are interested in trying to get into the NRG end of the year championship and you have played no events and have no points, if you show up to the Modern 10K showdown and win, you're in. So that's the biggest incentive I can offer to you. For everyone that's already on the leaderboard, already out participating, already playing in the events. You don't want to miss that one. It is Thanksgiving weekend, Saturday and Sunday. If you're watching from home, it'll be same channel right here, twitch.tv/NRG Series. And if you're interested, I'll throw this out, in cube drafting. CubeCon is next weekend, and it is also being broadcast on the Twitch NRG channel. So if you're into a little bit of a change of pace, you can find that. There's a whole set of commentators. It is not being commentated by NRG. We're just being contracted to run the production. So that'll be available next week, and I'm sure there'll be further advertisements coming. In the meantime, Mason Clark, give me one happy, positive thought from this afternoon while we're here. What do you take away and smile about when you're going to want to tell somebody else that you experienced here today?
I think both our quarterfinals and semifinals had 2 really intense, wild games. I mean, we saw some, also, I guess you could argue the first game with Theo when it comes wildly being unlucky, but some really wild, tight games in both the quarters and the semis. Everyone here played so well. Those were all some great ones, and tell people to go back and watch those VODs. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. For myself, the game with the Tron match was near and dear to me, as that was a well-fought battle against Ivan Espinosa that did it going in Tron's favor. Anyway, thanks for everyone that was watching. It takes a lot of work to put on these shows. The commentators, the judge staff, the production staff, all of us are here representing NRG owner Norman Cohen. We hope you enjoyed the weekend. We'll see you next month. Good night.